Hey, I'm in James chapter 1, and somebody asked me about the 27th verse here. It says, Pure religion and undefiled before God, and the Father is this to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. And it seems like the person might have took some offense to a community post I made, what was it, 2 days ago or something like that, where I said, I'm just too saved for religion. And he said, well, what about this verse? You say it's a relationship with Christ. Why can't it be both a religion and a relationship? Um, you know, a lot of pastors also try to pull out this verse. And then, oddly enough, like they'll read this verse and then they'll start to defend legalism. And when I talk about religion, I'm talking about legalism. Okay. And, I'm talking about people trying to Judaize you and try to convince you that you're missing something and that you need to, keep the law to have your blessings. Okay. And that, and, so a lot of people, when they talk about this verse, they're not just talking about this verse. When they're talking about religion, they're talking about keeping the law. Okay. And I've personally never met a pastor uh, at an institutional church that when he thought about religion, he wasn't talking about, you know, the law, um, in the Old Testament. Okay. And again, Christians don't have a relationship to the law of the Old Testament because uh, the law doesn't bring life. The law is administration of condemnation and administration of death. Okay, it talks about that in 2 Corinthians. And the point of the law is not to give you life; it's to show you that you need Jesus Christ. And then, yeah, it was a schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, like it says in Galatians, but um, you know, but once we've been brought into Christ, we're no longer under that schoolmaster. And so I also want to say that um, I don't think I've personally met a pastor that does this when it says in James 127. They're obsessed with like law keeping and trying to sanctify their flesh and all this weird stuff. But also before James 127 is 126 says, if any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. And then later on in the book of James, James says that, no man can tame the tongue. Okay? So, and then when I think about Paul, Paul talks about religion in Philippians. He gives his resume uh, and he counts it all down so that he can win Christ. Okay, and the only way that I can consider myself to have any shot at being unspotted from the world is to dwell in Jesus Christ, to abide in Christ. Okay, and in 1 John it says that we've overcome the world if we believe the gospel. I paraphrase that a little bit, but it actually, let me go to it too. So you don't think I just made that up. For whosoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Who is he that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Jesus is the Son of God? Okay. And look, the trying to keep the law will not keep us unspotted from the world, because you don't keep the law, you break the law. It's just a fact. So you can't use the law in your defense to say that, oh, look at me, I'm keeping the law and this wicked world isn't. Because no, you're not keeping the law. Okay? James 2:10 says, for whosoever shall, keep the law, for whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. So keeping yourself unspotted from the world cannot be, it can't mean, keeping the whole laws of God, because, we don't do that. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. God concluded all men to be under sin, and the law's there so that every mouth may be stopped. Okay? So, my point is, I'm trusting in Jesus Christ alone. Okay? And I know that someday he's going to give me a glorified body. And so, I'm not trying to live in my flesh and try to have my flesh impress God. Because, Jesus Christ, he died on the cross for my sins. And, but, the flesh doesn't want anything to do with God on God's terms. Okay? So, I have no confidence in the flesh. I've said this before. Your flesh doesn't get better at all before the rapture. At all. And again, back to verse 26. You can't even control your tongue. Your whole religion is vain. And James later on says that, the tongue no man can tame. So, yeah, so much for trying to be a good little religious boy, because we're not. Anyways, hope this gave somebody something to think about. Sign off.